From Scripps Sports, this is Bobcat Insider, sponsored by First Interstate Bank.
Oh, what a night it was at Bobcat Stadium for Gold Rush. It was a 30-24 overtime loss for Montana State against number 2 South Dakota State, and it was a heck of a roller coaster. I'm Keaton Galogli alongside Grace Lawrence. We'll talk with defensive tackle Alec Eckert in a bit, and head coach Brent Vigen will join us as well. All right, Grace, what an up, what a down, and everything in between this Saturday. How are you feeling after that thing?
I mean, I felt those highs and lows. I think whether you were a player, a fan, a media member like us on those sidelines or up in the booth, you felt, the highs, the lows. Both teams made some mistakes. Then the other team would capitalize on the mistake, but neither team could really grab momentum, and ultimately Montana State's probably kicking themselves, losing by inches.
No doubt. And look, we talked about how this game is going to have playoff implications going forward. But even though Montana State did lose, it certainly still felt like the Bobcats and the Jackrabbits, for that matter, are really two of the top teams in the country after this thing.
Well, right after the game, Montana State was talking about how they wanted to play them again, whether it be Monday media or post-game media. These are two playoff teams, two of the best in the country, I believe, by the end of this season, really.
Yeah, that may have been a preview of the national title game in January. The Bobcats could only hope, and we'll see where they need to go from here to get there with head coach Brent Vigen after this on the Bobcat Insider.
Welcome back to Bobcat Insider, sponsored by First Interstate Bank.
Back on the Bobcat Insider, Keaton Galogli alongside head coach Brent Vigen. And coach, first and foremost, we got to get to that Gold Rush atmosphere. That felt like it's everything the pomp and circumstance is supposed to be at a game like that.
Yeah, home opener, the Gold Rush aspect of it, the opponent, all that was phenomenal. Our crowd was into it from the earliest part of the day all the way to the very end, and can't tell you how much that meant to us. And we need those crowds to continue to show up that way.
I have no doubt they will continue to do so as the Bobcats will be home for the next couple of weeks. But we can dive into this game against South Dakota State, and really we hear that a lot of that noise while the Bobcats are on defense. And it felt like in this game we saw a lot from your defense in this contest.
Yeah, a little bit of a slow start that first drive, but then buckled down, kept them to a field goal, and I thought from that point in time our defense really did settle in. Was put in a lot of tough situations. The field position wasn't awesome for them all day, but they kept battling. Obviously put us in position to be where we were, in the fourth quarter, and ultimately it came down to overtime. And overtime's a tough place for a defense. We came up short there, but proud of the efforts they made, and I think the progress was certainly felt that day.
So, and particularly on the defensive line, we'll talk to Alec Eckert here in just a bit. But overall, especially those top 4 guys, they really seem to raise the bar this weekend.
Yeah, I think we know what we have in Kenny and Paul, both all-conference guys. Hunter Parsons, Alec Eckert, both guys that played a bunch of football last year, they probably played their best game. And we can put that group of 4 out there, and we can talk about those guys playing at that kind of level like they did the other night. It's a great place for us to start on defense.
Specifically about Alec Eckert, and just only getting 2 years with him, the transfer over from Washington State, but just how much joy is he playing with right now over the last couple of weeks?
Well, I think he's a guy that really appreciates being here. Went to Wazoo initially, didn't play much, was looking for an opportunity to play. I know Montana State was a school he had looked at out of high school, and found his way here a little bit late, but I know he's really enjoyed the opportunity. I know physically he's in a different position this year than he was last year, put on a bunch of strength and weight, and got off to a great start for us. And
got to ask you about Caden Dollar, too. He had some big plays in this game. He had the green dot in his helmet, so he was helping to relay a lot of the play calls, but, he looked like he was electrified all night long.
Yeah, Caden's a guy playing that strong safety position that needs to be a leader, needs to be a guy that can diagnose things, needs to be able to communicate and ultimately make plays. And 2 games in, he's doing that. It's great to have him back in the lineup, and our expectation he's going to continue to do those things throughout the season.
Now, at the end of the day, the scoreboard wasn't where you wanted it to be in this game. Where are the guys at mentally? This feels like it could be a game that could send a team either one of those 2 different directions.
Well, I think awfully disappointed with the end result. I think what you got to do, win or lose a game like that, you better be able to dissect it every which way and see the things that we did better from game 1 to game 2, but then also see, okay, where do we still need to make improvement? Why did the result not end up the way we wanted to? And I think our guys own that. I think we definitely have a team that really cares, wants to win, but it can't be all about wanting to win. It has to be able to be about wanting to execute better. I think that's probably the thing that we have a lot of improvement left to make, and experience is one of those things that we might lack a little bit, but each one of these games piles up, we become a more experienced team, and our ability to execute, let's say when the lights are on, needs to happen at a higher rate, and we look forward to that happening this next Saturday.
Well, let's talk about a little bit of that run game for you guys. Adam Jones and Julius Davis. I thought it really stood out to me after the game how much accountability they took in this contest. But specifically for Adam Jones, I know he didn't have a huge day rushing the football, but it did seem like he found ways to make impacts other than just that throughout the night.
Yeah, Adam's going to do everything he can. He caught a few balls out of the backfield that were good gains for us. His opportunities, while not out in space a whole lot, were really important. Thinking about the first overtime, those last couple runs that he had to get us in the end zone. I thought both guys did what they could with the opportunities they had, and I think they really complement each other well. I think there's a tandem that knows they're going to get their opportunities. They're unselfish. They support one another. They know it's about more than them, just carrying the football, whether it's catching it, whether it's blocking. I think they're both willing to do that. And, Adam in particular had those opportunities without the ball in his hands, maybe a little bit more on Saturday night.
Well, that leads us into the offensive line, which obviously has been reshuffled. But where do you feel like you are with that group and where they need to go to continue to move forward?
Well, we need to get better. Again, same thing. We've tacked on 2 games of experience, I think, against two good defensive lines for sure. And, we got to grow out of that. It's not the first start for anybody anymore. We're a couple starts in. I thought as that game went along, probably just like the week before, we figured a few things out. But ultimately, that group is still, I would say, coming together and has its best football in front of us. I know we'll get Burke back ultimately, and what we do then will be a choice we have to make, but we have this crew of 5 guys for the time being, and we need to play better as a unit.
Overall, when you look at your team handling these 2 games and being in the belly of the beast, how young is this team, and how are they just kind of trying to grow within the fire of these first couple of weeks?
Well, I think sometimes they don't realize maybe how young they might be, but I say that we got a lot of third-year guys right now, and after a couple games into your third year, you're not young anymore. Maybe you are at the beginning of the year. Maybe you were a backup who's now a starter. Maybe you're a guy that wasn't seeing any time. Maybe you're special teams, now you're a backup. Whatever it might be, those guys, they're seasoned way more now than they were a couple weeks ago. I think that's the way I see it. We need to be able to, have a sense of urgency. I think that's probably the biggest thing because, you don't, you're a second year, a third year guy. You can't worry about what's down the road. You got to worry about what's right in front of you and make the most of this opportunity that's here and now. So, it's our expectation that we grow up pretty fast.
All right, so right in front of you next is San Diego coming up this weekend for a 1 o'clock kickoff. They're a team that just got a ranked win against number 24 Southern Utah. Stopped the run in that game. Dom Nankiel is their quarterback. Matt Colombo, the running back. They both had big games. What kind of challenge are they presenting?
I think it's a real challenge for sure. I know what they've been able to do in these 2 games is they've been able to run it and they've been able to stop the run. Certainly ingredients for teams to be in position to win games, and that's certainly what we want to do. Really impressive win against Southern Utah, and that's what they're riding. They're riding in with some momentum. So, we're going to have to play well, and I know they have good offensive line, defensive line. They have good skill players led by their quarterback, who's very slippery. So defensively, we'll have to play assignment football. And offensively, we got to find a way to be balanced. I think that's the biggest thing for us. We got to find a way to run the football, even though they haven't allowed it. We got to be able to throw it because they are, giving you some matchups there, and ultimately play complementary football along the way.
All right, looking for some complementary football this weekend between the Bobcats and the Toreros over at Bobcat Stadium. All right, in just a bit, we'll be rejoined by Grace Lawrence, and soon Alec Eckert joins the program on the Bobcat Insider.
Welcome back to Bobcat Insider, sponsored by First Interstate Bank.
Back on the Bobcat Insider, Keaton Galogly alongside Grace Lawrence as we try to put this 30-24 overtime loss in Gold Rush in the past and get ready for San Diego next week with a 1 p.m. kickoff at Bobcat Stadium. But Grace, as we do continue to break down this game against South Dakota State, one thing that certainly stands out on the positive side is Bobcats might have a championship-level defense.
Yeah, I think, both those defenses really kept them in the game, both South Dakota State and Montana State. Vigen mentioned it, the Bobcats were put in some pretty tough field position. You think back to that first half even, and, it was those guys on the D-line, the linebackers really coming up big for their team.
And we're seeing guys having to step into some roles due to some injury. At the linebacker position, Neil Daly out, Cole Taylor from Great Falls. What a revelation.
I mean, a guy who never played defense before he got to college, and Vigen has mentioned, it took him a while to really see that he could play linebacker, and he's doing it at a pretty elite level.
And he's getting some help from the front forward. We knew this Bobcat D-line was going to be the backbone of the defense, and we're seeing 4 seniors in Hunter Parsons, Alec Eckert, Kenneth Iden, and Paul Brott all step up, and really, in a lot of ways, it feels like they're starting to reach their ceiling and their potential right now.
Yeah, I think it's no coincidence that the most experienced unit on the team has been the strongest, especially Hunter Parsons, a guy who's waited his turn, who's stayed with the program. Are you not entertained? I was entertained by his performance, and Alec Eckert, getting his first career sack, absolutely amazing, and we'll be able to talk to him coming up after this.
Welcome back to Bobcat Insider, sponsored by First Interstate Bank.
Welcome back into the Bobcat Insider. Grace Lawrence joined alongside Alec Eckert. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And I want to talk about your first career sack over the weekend. Take me through that play.
Yeah, so full slide, just saw the tackle come down, got a hand from the guard and popped it. We had that in the practice script all week. Coach Howell had that in there, Coach Bapp had it in there, so got a chance to see it in the game and just executed it.
Yeah, and we talked during fall camp what your celebration would be. I know you were looking forward to that. You hit the tees up. Why?
Well, no, I didn't hit tees up. It looked like tees up.
Yeah.
My dad actually asked me, he's like, were you throwing tees up? And I was like, no, I wasn't. So I have a tattoo right here of our family's brand. So I was punching the brand, but it did look like tees up. I had a lot of people asking me if that's what it was.
Oh, that's so cool. How much
Yeah.
does your family mean to you?
Everything, yeah. I think that they're honestly a big reason of why I maybe stuck it out at Washington State, maybe why I'm still playing. Just want to make them proud.
Yeah, and then to kind of have this past couple seasons at Montana State, what's that been like?
Oh, amazing. It's the best decision I ever made coming here. Have made brothers for life, some of the best friends I'll ever have. Love the coaches. Just super thankful that Coach Bapp and Coach Vigen and Coach Howell kind of took a chance on me. I mean, it's not like I had a lot of game film or anything coming out of Wazoo, a lot of practice clips. I don't think they knew for sure what they were going to get, so thankfully they took a chance on me and just want to make it pay off for them.
Yeah, I think Montana State and Coach Vigen does such a great job of not just adding transfers to fill a skill set or anything, but also a culture fit. I think you're one of the most perfect examples on this team for that. How do you describe your fit into this team?
Yeah, I just try to, be the same guy every day, show up in the locker room, have a good attitude, just joke around with the guys, hold people accountable. But yeah, I just try to be the same guy every day, not to have two different faces or be two different people, just show up with a positive attitude and get after it.
Yeah, your defensive line was pretty successful on Saturday. What do you attribute to that success?
Just a lot of practice, a lot of hard work. I think we attack every day with a certain mindset. If you've ever been around us, you hear us break on, dominate, and we went into that game wanting to dominate. Obviously, the scoreboard didn't end the way we wanted it to. Things didn't go the way we wanted to in that realm, but I'm just proud of the way the guys worked. I know there's obviously some things to clean up, a lot of things to clean up, things we can get better at, but I know everyone, put a lot of effort in and practice hard that week for sure.
Yeah, another D lineman that had a phenomenal game, Hunter Parsons, someone who's waited his turn, and he absolutely broke out onto the scene this weekend. What was it like watching your teammate?
That was awesome. I had that TFL he had where it was pin pull, and I had a guy, I was holding the tackle up, and I had a perfect view of it, and I just see Hunter come in, boom, knock him down. That was pretty sweet. I know how hard he's worked, some of the stuff he's battled through throughout his career since he's been here, and that was pretty sweet to see that, one of my really good friends. So.
Are you not entertained?
Right, yeah.
Exactly,
I got to listen to Keaton's. I saw Keaton's call back on that. That was pretty sweet, too.
Yeah, another D lineman who came up big on special teams, Seth Brock, that touchdown. What was it like watching that?
That was pretty sweet. Yeah, that was super cool to watch. That was one of the, obviously, the highlights of the game when he did that. I mean, we're all on the sideline going crazy, jumping around. Another Idaho kid, so love to see that. I remember the D-line.
Yeah, you mentioned, obviously not the outcome you guys wanted. What were those positives you can take into the rest of the season from, playing two tough opponents right off the bat this year?
Yeah, I think just our mindset throughout the whole game of, things are going to happen. We're going to face some adversity. Some things might not go our way, but no matter what, we're going to put our hand in the dirt, we're going to line up, and there's another play to be played, and we got to get after it.
Yeah, a bit of a younger team. You being one of those veterans, what are you telling the younger guys on the team after Saturday?
Just trust the process. Keep going to work. You know, we have that 1-0 mindset. I think that's one of the things that got us so far last year, and even though we didn't go 1-0 this week, it's no different. You know, that game's over. Learn from the mistakes and attack the next week. I go 1-0 this week. Yeah,
I guess take me into practice these first couple of days since then. What is kind of the attitude you guys have been taking into these past couple of days?
The same attitude we had last week, really. I mean, obviously we didn't get the job done, so there's some things we have to change, some things we have to amp up. But just approaching it the same way we did last week. Just got to get better. Got to watch the film, learn from the mistakes.
Yeah, you know, your second year since you've come into Montana State, typically in a situation like that, your leadership grows on the team. How have you seen your leadership kind of take a jump this year?
Yeah, I think just being one of the older guys, obviously last year we had Brody in the room. It's hard not to look up to Brody, I mean, he does everything right, you know what I mean? I still call Brody and ask him for advice about, you know, this, that. But just trying to be someone that the older guys can look up to, trying to lead by example, just show them, you know, the ins and outs. You got to do the little things right.
Yeah, being a player-led team, as much as you guys are, is so special. What makes this team so special?
I think just exactly like you said, it being player-led. All these guys from Montana, I don't think people understand or I think people underestimate how much it means to all these guys from Montana. And a big thing for us has been making other people's why your why. So just understanding how much it means to guys like Paul, like Kenny, like Zach Cruz, like Adam, right? Understanding how much it means to those guys. And if you can make someone else's why your why, it's hard not to play hard for the person next to you.
Yeah, and that D-line group is so special. What stands out most about your room?
I think just our connection. I think that's connection is kind of our edge. We're all so close. You know, we can have a really good time in that room. And then when it's time to get back to work, we get back to work and we can dive in. And being so close, it makes it easier to hold each other accountable when you're maybe not making above the line decisions. You can hold each other accountable and make sure we're all doing the right things.
Yeah, and now Coach Bapp fully taken over your line in that room this year. How has he been as, you know, fully the coach of the D-line?
Yeah, he's been awesome. Everyone loves Coach Bapp. It's hard not to. He's a good guy. He's gonna get on your butt when you're not doing things right. And then that's what we need. But then also, you know, when you are doing things right and things are going good, he's going to tell you you're doing a good job and just helping the guys play free and just play fast.
Yeah, the best part about this sport is that you get another opportunity almost every Saturday. What stands out most about San Diego as you guys prepare for another home game this week?
For us, they have a pretty athletic quarterback, so we're going to be trying to contain him, make sure he doesn't escape the pocket, don't give him any room to run around. And then they have a pretty athletic O-line, so just matching up against them, a little bit different than last week's. Those guys were a lot bigger than we're going to see this week, maybe not quite as athletic.
Yeah, and then, you know, in your final year, how do you balance kind of being sentimental, maybe taking in your final gold rush, but still bringing that edge into the game?
I think, honestly, it being my last year, you know, that sentimental value is kind of what brings the edge. It's like, well, it's my last time stepping on the field in these gold jerseys. You got to make the most of it, and that's going to be the same. You never know when your last play is going to be your last play. You look at a guy like Blake Schmidt last year. I think about that all the time. Blake didn't think his last game was going to be against Idaho State, and it was. So just take every play like it's your last.
That's a phenomenal mindset.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Yes, ma'am.
Good luck on Saturday and the rest of this season.
Thank you very much.
And stay tuned. Keaton and I will be previewing that matchup coming up after.
Welcome back to Bobcat Insider, sponsored by First Interstate Bank.
Welcome back into the Bobcat Insider. Grace Lawrence joined alongside Keaton Galogli, and we've hit home how strong this defense is. Playing at that championship level, they need to win games, to be playing deep into the season. But, you know, the offense never could really get into a rhythm.
No doubt. And look, it does feel like this Bobcat defense played well enough to win that game on Saturday. So the question is, where does this offense go? Because it's not like it's just a barren offense right now. There's a lot of weapons there, but we heard it from head coach Brent Vigen. This Bobcat offensive line needs to get better to get this ground game going, protect Justin Lamson a little bit more, because when he's got time, he's got it.
Yeah, I mean, Sturbick said it, the first day of fall camp. Lampson has that it factor that a quarterback needs, and it seems like the guys are really buying into him. When he crossed over into that end zone, I was right there, and the team was celebrating with him. They were embracing him. I think it's just, a comfort level, really learning this offense, learning this program.
And now we'll see if they can get this thing done coming up on Saturday against the San Diego team that's coming off a ranked win at home. They held Southern Utah to barely 100 yards of rushing. We'll see if the Bobcats can take some frustration out on the Toreros coming up this Saturday at 1 p.m. For Grace Lawrence, I'm Keaton Galogly. We'll talk again next week.